Despite being one of the most requested projects in the DCEU, creating a Man of Steel sequel with Henry Cavill as Superman after a decade would be a challenging endeavor. Join me in this video as we dive into the intriguing world of Man of Steel 2. We'll explore what the movie might look like now, why it hasn't happened yet, and whether Henry Cavill will return as Superman in the DCEU. Discover if the film can continue the story from Justice League and if the DCU can still use the planned villains without Cavill. And most importantly, find out how introducing Brainiac as the villain could make the DCU's Superman reboot stand out and bring a fresh twist to the iconic character story. Don't miss this exciting video, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button for more DCU updates. Let's find out. The Superman character's future has been a topic of discussion, especially with Dwayne Johnson teasing a Black Adam and Superman crossover. Although there might be a possibility of Henry Cavill's Superman facing off against Black Adam, his true return to the DCEU would likely require another standalone Superman movie, namely Man of Steel 2. The challenge arises from various factors, such as the significant time gap of almost 10 years, 2 Superman appearances in crossover movies, and the incomplete and polarizing story arc by Zack Snyder that couldn't be concluded. The original plan for Snyder's Superman arc in Justice League 2 and 3 is unlikely to materialize. The DCEU hasn't provided a new direction for Superman, leaving the character's future uncertain. To make Man of Steel 2 feasible, it would need to lean more towards a soft reboot than a direct continuation of Snyder's vision. But why hasn't Man of Steel 2 been made yet, even though many people want to see it, and Superman is a popular character? In essence, the closest thing to Man of Steel 2 was Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Originally, the idea was for a proper sequel focused solely on Superman and his supporting characters, featuring villains like Lex Luthor and Metallo. Director Zack Snyder and producer Christopher Nolan envisioned a Superman trilogy akin to the Dark Knight trilogy's approach. Man of Steel shared many similarities with Batman Begins, as both were written by David S. Goyer. While Snyder planned a Bruce Wayne tease at the end of Man of Steel 2, the intention was for it to be a genuine sequel of Man of Steel, not a crossover film. After the Avengers' immense success, it became evident that audiences were intrigued by shared universes. Warner Brothers then opted to build a DC cinematic universe similar to the MCU, and Man of Steel was retroactively considered the first DCEU movie. With a Justice League film in the pipeline, the original plans for a Man of Steel sequel had to change. Instead of focusing solely on Superman and his supporting characters, the sequel evolved into Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, a crossover movie that also introduced Wonder Woman and briefly featured Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman. Batman vs. Superman achieved a higher box office performance compared to Man of Steel, but it faced a significant drop in its second weekend and received highly divisive reactions from audiences. These reactions prompted the studio to make course corrections that continue to impact the DCEU today. According to rumors, Zack Snyder initially had no intentions for a new Superman movie, as Superman's story was meant to unfold through Justice League 2 and culminate in Justice League 3. However, after Snyder's departure from Justice League and the DCEU, Warner Brothers appeared to distance itself from the previous films, including Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, and even the Justice League Snyder Cut. With uncertain plans for most of the Justice League characters, a new Superman movie never materialized. Okay, so with that, will Henry Cavill return as Superman in the DCEU? The reasons behind Henry Cavill's absence from the DCEU were never explicitly clarified, leaving uncertainty about whether it was a business decision or a creative choice. A similar situation arose with Ben Affleck's Batman character after Justice League. Although Affleck publicly stated he was done with the role, he later returned for Zack Snyder's Justice League reshoots, appeared in The Flash, and will now appear in Aquaman and The Last Kingdom. In contrast, Henry Cavill expressed his desire to reprise his role as Superman, but unfortunately that has not materialized yet. As I previously stated, Dwayne Johnson's involvement in Black Adam has sparked hope for Henry Cavill's return as Superman. The Rock, who produces and stars in the film, has hinted at a potential crossover between Black Adam and Superman. He emphasized that the fight between the two characters is a significant aspect of the storyline. Johnson also mentioned that Superman, being the most important character in the DC universe, has been sidelined for too long, suggesting that a confrontation between Black Adam and Superman is being planned. With The Rock promising a new era for DC films and a shift in the DCEU's power dynamics, the likelihood of Henry Cavill's Superman making a comeback seems more promising than ever. Next, we move up to, is it not possible for Man of Steel 2 to continue Snyder's Justice League story? A Man of Steel 2 cannot follow Zack Snyder's Superman arc that was intended to lead to a grand, high-stakes event film due to the events that unfolded from Batman vs. Superman to Justice League. Despite the release of the Snyder Cut, Warner Bros. Currently has no plans to continue the Snyderverse with a Justice League sequel directed by Zack Snyder. The Apocalypse invasion led by Darkseid would have been intricately linked to Superman's narrative, with him being controlled by the anti-life equation after the loss of Lois Lane. Zack Snyder's Superman story was essentially a Justice League story where Superman evolved from a threat to becoming the ultimate hero by the end of Justice League 3. However, with the Justice League sequels not moving forward, a Man of Steel sequel cannot carry on Snyder's vision for Superman's story. Even though Henry Cavill's return as Superman is uncertain, the DCU cannot discard the planned villains for Man of Steel 2. Brainiac, a captivating Superman villain, has yet to make an appearance in any live-action films, despite being considered for several projects before Man of Steel 2. Previous attempts to include the alien cyborg supervillain were made in early drafts of Christopher Reeve's Superman 3, Bryan Singer's cancelled sequel to Superman Returns, and the shelved Superman Reborn film. Sadly, the latest film's cancellation represents another missed opportunity for DC executives to incorporate one of Superman's most formidable foes into their cinematic universe. Even though Brainiac has yet to appear as a live-action villain against Superman, he remains the top choice for the nemesis in the DCU's new version of the superhero. Brainiac's exceptional strength and intellect make him one of the most formidable adversaries for the Man of Steel, incorporating the best qualities of other renowned villains like Lex Luthor and General Zod. In DC Comics, Brainiac has proven to be a significant threat at the Justice League level, posing a genuine challenge for the DCU's new Superman, putting both his physical power and ingenuity to the test. Will Brainiac help the DCU's Superman reboot stand out? Including Brainiac in James Gunn's updated DCU Superman movie would make it stand out from other versions of the superhero. Many previous films have used the same villains repeatedly, like Lex Luthor and General Zod. However, with Brainiac as a major antagonist, this movie would bring a fresh and rarely seen challenge to Superman. Out of the 6 live-action solo films since 1978, only Superman 3 didn't feature Lex Luthor or General Zod as the main villain, so having Brainiac in the new movie would give Superman a unique and exciting adversary to face. Brainiac can fix the mistake made in previous Superman movies and give the franchise a chance to break free from repeating the same stories and fights. He would be a worthy villain for the next Man of Steel film and is not a character that most people know well, allowing the filmmakers to create a fresh and exciting antagonist. However, Brainiac's future in live-action projects is uncertain. James Gunn is working on a new script for a Superman movie with a different actor, but the antagonist hasn't been revealed yet. While Brainiac might appear in the film, fans will always feel sad about missing the opportunity to see him battle Henry Cavill's Superman in Man of Steel 2. Now, what are your thoughts on the idea of a Man of Steel 2 with Brainiac as the main villain? Would you like to see Henry Cavill return as Superman? Or are you open to a new actor taking on the role? Let us know in the comments.